Oh, and thank you for coming for this brief presentation about massage and muscle pain and looking for the missing link in care. So, introducing neuromuscular therapy. So, I'm Rick Hayhurst. I've been a massage and manual therapist for over 25 years. I've worked as a therapist, as an educator, and as a coach. And just wanted to introduce you to a couple ideas when you think about treating muscle pain and dysfunction. So first of all, check in. Let's check in. Like, how are you feeling? What's one word that describes how you're feeling in this moment right now? And when I ask this to groups of people, they say, I am stressed, or I'm tired, or oh my gosh, I've had these headaches for 20 years, or I've been in this back pain or this hip pain or whatever. And people go down the list. So when you start scratching the surface around how do we feel, we start to realize that we feel quite out of balance. So I'm a massage therapist, a massage and manual therapist, and I come from a background with lots of different kinds of training, traditional West Coast style of massage. That's what they used to call the massage school that I graduated from way back when. And moving forward, there's all kinds of things that we look at when we look at bodies, and there's a lot of techniques to draw from, but simply put, I listen and follow. And so in sessions with me, I listen to your body and I follow what it says. Understanding that the story that we say from our mouths may not be the same story that our bodies tell. So I want to check in with you. I want to hear from you how you're feeling, what you notice, and all those things. But your body's going to tell the story, and your body's going to help us get to the truth of it. So you'll understand maybe a little bit more in a couple more slides. So modern touch modalities that I use often in my practice, these are just some basics. I do lots of different things, but neuromuscular therapy, managing soft tissue pain syndromes, myofascial pain syndromes, cruciate acupressure, which deals with multiple levels of being, and then just working with energy. What's this flow of energy? How am I feeling? And so here's a basic intro to neuromuscular therapy. So NMT, neuromuscular therapy, looks at 6 physiological factors that create and or intensify pain. So ischemia, lack of blood flow. So there's a constriction somewhere. And that constriction can create what are called trigger points. Trigger points simply trigger a feeling, sometimes pain, into any other part of the body. Usually we understand that as referred pain. Nerve entrapment or compression, so either a muscle is squeezing a nerve or a bone is compressing on a nerve. And so postural distortions, I sit at this computer all day, so is my head forward, are my shoulders rounded? What's happening in this posture? And then nutrition, am I hitting McDonald's a lot? Am I, or even once, or am I sitting and more mindful of the kinds of food that I'm eating, more whole, we might say living foods? And then what does my emotional well-being look like? What are my stress levels? How do I manage keeping myself in emotional balance? So if I was presenting to a live group, there's an activity here. I would hand out some trigger point charts. And I'd have you just start marking it up, like this is what I'm feeling. In practice, I pull up charts and I ask you to find your pain on the chart. And it's such a profound experience, because if you are dealing with trigger points, your answer in looking at these charts is, yes, that's me. Like, that's me. There's no confusion about it. So here's an example. This is, I'm showing you one of my favorite trigger points, the sternocleidomastoid on the first slide to your left, which is the side of the neck, 4 X's, you've got 2 parts of one muscle, you've got darkened red areas, you've got stippled red areas. Those red areas indicate pain. And the darker part, the darker red areas, that indicates more intense pain. The stippled areas are less intense pain. But you can see in this sternocleidomastoid muscle, if we were in a group, I would say, well, what do you see? And people say, oh, I see headaches. Feels like I've got a cap on my head, or like that back of my head where I lay down, I feel that, or behind my ear, over my eyes, into my eye, into my face. So those are some things that people say when they look at this slide, and that's because it's true. The trigger point, so X marks the spot. So the X is the trigger point. The red, darkened and stippled areas are simply the referred pain or the pain patterns. So source of pain is the X. Experience of pain is the red area. The next one here, what do you see? You see the red line in the middle picture. You've got the X on the trapezius muscle, And then you've got the line up the side of the neck, around the side of the head to the front, just behind the eye, down into the jaw. And so, again, asking you, what does that look like? And people say, that's exactly what I feel. I feel that headache. I feel that neck pain. I feel that jaw pain. Next slide here, temporomandibular, around the temporomandibular joint, the masseter. So you've got sinus pain, you've got teeth pain, you've got jaw pain, even some head pain. Also looking at ringing in the ears or ear aches, that kind of pain showing up. So these trigger points refer the feeling of pain and or another feeling, numbness, tingling, pain, even a temperature change. And so when I work with people, the lens I use is, I wonder if you've got a trigger point. Maybe there's a trigger point causing that pain. And I've dealt with people for over 25 years using this work who have been to the Diamond Clinic, the headache specialist, who have been to their physicians, to multiple specialists, who've had surgeries, who came back to me after healing from surgery and said, you know what, I saw my physician, and unfortunately I had back surgery thinking that was going to help me, and I still have pain. It's not to minimize or reduce the possibility of something else happening, but it is to say this is also one possibility. You might simply have a trigger point. And so unnecessary surgeries happen all the time. Unnecessary medications happen all the time. The joy of this kind of work is that this is chemical-free, non-invasive therapy, which has profound effects on how we feel. You'll see on my website, you'll see some testimonials. I've had headaches for over 40 years. Lady comes in, over 40 years I've had headaches, and what are you going to do for me, she says. And I say, absolutely nothing. You know, I cannot combat that attitude, so why are you here? You know, what did you come for? Well, my doctor told me to come. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you came. It can be really scary to come and try something new. I'm glad you came. Well, yeah, but what are you going to do? Well, I pulled out these charts and I showed her, and she said, that's my headache right there. That's exactly my headache for over 40 years. And I said, great, let's get you on the table. So we get on the table, we do treatment, probably 20 minutes. Check in afterwards. She says, well, I don't know what you did, but I don't have a headache. And I said, when's the last time you didn't have a headache? I've had the same headache for 40 years. I've never not had that headache every single day, all day long. And I said, well, that's wonderful. Your body's responding to some touch. Maybe it's just the physiology intruding so your brain can't process that pain. Let's give it a couple days and see. She comes in a couple days later for her second treatment. How's your pain? Well, I haven't had pain since you saw me. I said, great, that's positive, so that we just take that data to say, okay, we can create change. So let's trend the change in the direction of balance. Let's get on the table and do some more work. So I saw her for 6 sessions. The whole 6 sessions, she didn't have any pain. Saw her for the next year and a half for some other things. Headache came back, really minor sense of headache, not the headache that she had previously for 40 years. In fact, she would say, this is not the same headache I had. This is a different headache. And it's so mild, it's almost like a 2 out of 10. So that's progress. So imagine how profound it is to have somebody treating what is the cause of my pain instead of treating the symptoms of my pain. So that's just a great success story to share with you, a case study around what's the effectiveness of this work. And this is another favorite of mine. This is the psoas muscle. So you can see over on the right, nipples are front, crack is back. You'll never forget that. So here you've got the psoas, you've got trigger points in the psoas. The psoas lays on the front of the spine, the anterior portion of the body. But the pain we feel, the image on the left, is in the back. So when we have back pain, we have to consider, is the source of this in my back, or is the source of this somewhere else? Whereby, if this is the source of the pain, we treat it through the front of you, through your abdomen, reaching to the psoas, directly impacting this referred pain. So we can talk more about that in person, but just it's 2 of my favorite trigger points, the sternocleidomastoid, this image on the left here, and then this image, this psoas, and this low back pain. Treating this, of course, with the psoas as well, but just love these 2 trigger points because they're so profoundly impactful on the experience of pain. So here's a great story. This comes from Judith Delaney, the director of the NMT Center, Neuromuscular Therapy Center. She's the #1 lecturer and teacher in the world for neuromuscular therapy. I had the pleasure of working with her and training with her back in 1995. So this comes directly from her training, and she's talking about Sam, who is a 33-year-old successful computer whiz, and he has a high-stress job and he loves sports. So he sits at his computer all day, answers the phone on his right side, and he's typing information during the phone conversation. And these are the days when we had to hold the phone versus having headpieces. And he holds the phone with his shoulder. So he's shortening the levator scapula, a couple different muscles, the scalenes, traps, sternocleidomastoid, on the same side, so on the right side. Now his hamstrings are shortened, which are in the legs, in the back of your legs, and they're shortened because he's sitting constantly. And his hip flexors on the front are also short, otherwise his legs wouldn't be bent. So his back has little support, and he often finds himself slumping in the chair after hours of typing. His low back aches, and it's fairly constant, as is his neck pain. So both are aggravated by his infrequent tennis, erratic running, and non-existent stretching. So Sam is a setup. He's just an accident waiting to happen. So then you look at his diet. So he's working in a fast-paced environment. He's under constant pressure. He's got deadlines. He drinks coffee all day long. He consumes breakfast and lunch that are mostly white flour, sugar, soda, preservatives. So lots of neurostimulants. And also lots of hidden food sensitivities or allergies, and lots of junk food from the machine down the hall. So the other meal times are really part of networking time. So he's stressed. He's stress eating. He's not mindfully eating. He's not even aware of what he's eating. And he's trying to work out problems. He's talking to his associates. And he's really working on accomplishing something, which is high stress, and he's in this competitive environment. And so he really doesn't support digestion and is suffering from indigestion. And so, all of these things contribute to pain, or to the setup of pain, to vulnerability to pain. So Sam spends morning producing a report for one of his biggest clients, and he's not really happy about it. It's past the due date, but he delivers it on his way to lunchtime tennis match with Joe. Joe's a really good tennis player, so since he's running late and the court time is short, Sam doesn't stretch. So he doesn't warm up at all. And keep in mind, he's been sitting at a desk all day. So instead of warming anything up, his body is what we would call cold. So he serves the ball. A couple minutes into the game, he reaches for a ball that's out of reach, and he feels a sharp pain in the right side of his neck. So he's torn his right levator scapula muscle. After a few more hits, the pain increases to the point he has to leave the court. So Joe, who feels sorry for him, says, "Hey, go get in a hot shower. That's going to help." Well, instead of using ice to constrict the blood flow to the torn tissue, Sam applies hot water, and which increases the blood flow to the area. So after the hot shower, he tries to compress himself and reduce bleeding in the torn tissues. Unfortunately, the muscles spasm even more. So by the time he returns to his afternoon of work, he's immobile. He can't turn his neck. And the pain that he's feeling is significant. And he's established what we call a reflex arc. So Sam's ischemic tissues begin to build metabolic waste deposits. So what we recognize here is that there is a way to think about how we take care of ourselves. And when we work with clients, we can get really clear about what is the setup for pain, how are we taking care of ourselves to produce the results that we're looking for. Incidentally, I treated an athlete last night who she's very successful and a high-level professional, drives a bit of a distance to work, back and forth every day, and drives a bit of a distance back into the city to tend to some of her workout activities, and so gets on my table and says, "Yeah, I've got a torn labrum, I've got this and this and this and this, but I still work out. And I have to work out every day because otherwise I don't feel well. And by the way, I have pain. And by the way, when I'm working out, I have pain." Now, you have to understand that there's a limitation to what these machines called our bodies can tolerate. And so there will be a breakdown at some point if she doesn't have an intervention, whether that's self-imposed or imposed by her body. And so good news is she came onto my table last night so I can educate her about some things. Some of the pain that she was experiencing came simply from trigger points, and so we actually were able to manage some of that pain and eliminate some of that pain. We'll check in during the next session to see if it's actually gone or was a temporary fix. And in any case, that's one of those situations where life is happening. Life is happening, and so our bodies take second to everything else. The problem with this machine called our bodies is that it requires us to take care of it. So I just always encourage people that I work with and everyone in the world, take care of this machine. It's the only one you have. And how it is in 10 years will be a result of how we took care of it 10 years prior. So really always encouraging people to learn how to take care of their body better and to let it be a little bit of a game. Like, I know this much today, what can I know tomorrow? So another therapy that I work with and a lens that I look through is called Krishada acupressure. So it's really working with energy. So as we're working with bodies, we start to realize there's lots of emotional trauma that gets caught in these tissues. And they're in various levels of us. Like it could be in our emotional self, an emotional trauma. It could be a mental trauma. It could be a physical trauma. It could be a spiritual trauma. So we have to really consider, like, where is trauma housed in the being? And so, in working with Krishada, the intention is to work on all of those levels and also infusing the body with various vibrations from color, elemental energies like earth, water, air, fire, and to really understand vibrational energy and how the vibration impacts our bodies. And everything has a frequency. And thankfully, we know that from science, from basic science. And so, when we think about trauma, or dysfunction or pathologies that live in the body, they also have frequencies. So Krishada is about working with various energies or vibrational frequencies. So again, working on many levels. Sometimes when we're at work, sitting at the computer, and we're trying to figure out that mental problem in front of us, we might say that's our mental body or the mental aspect of ourselves. But yet, we've got a child at home that we're worried about, or a relationship that we're worried about, or like I'm stressed about, the bills that are coming up. That's emotion. So that's different than the mental aspect. That's an emotional aspect. On the other hand, this physical body is sitting in that chair, maybe typing on a computer, maybe moving a mouse, but typically less mobile. And so it's planted here while the mental body's in its problem, the emotional body's in its problem, and then the spiritual body's trying to figure out meaning, or it's trying to figure out, how do I get more energy? How do I satisfy whatever this hindrance is or this inhibition? So really getting clear that there's different levels of us, and we can be split off, completely disintegrated. And so we want to integrate ourselves. We want to integrate to work as a team. The physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body. So 4 different aspects of us coming together as one, working as a team. As I go through this exercise with people, typically what they report is they feel fuller or stronger or more whole. And interestingly enough, they often feel more energy. So just an interesting little sidebar. So as you look through the rest of my site, please, love to see you. Come on in for a session. You can just do the 25-minute session at 50% off, and just to give it a try and to see what you think and find out if this is a therapy for you. But if you're ready, you can schedule for a longer session. So these are 2 different websites. I do coaching with people so that we work through the hard stuff. And so that's transformationalcoach.us. I work with a couple families right now. Family of 5, family of 4, another family of 5, another family of 2. I work with couples, I work with individuals, and this is just an opportunity to do a different kind of work. So transformationalcoach.us, and then transformational-bodywork.com. So this is where you can come in for some touch work and create some change in how your body's feeling. Thanks so much for checking me out, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.